I slammed my fist on the desk before I even realized I'd done it. The candle had reversed violently, slicing straight through my stop like it wasn't even there. My heart was pounding, my breathing unstable, and for a moment I felt that familiar flash of heat move up my spine. The same heat I used to feel every time I blew an account. And as I stared at the screen, I heard Jesse Livermore's words echo in my mind. The market is never wrong. Opinions often are. In that moment, I knew the market wasn't beating me. My own mind was. And if you're watching this right now, I know you've felt this too. The shock, the frustration, the disbelief when a trade that looked perfect suddenly collapses and takes your emotions with it. But here's the truth no one told me when I started. Every chart pattern, every indicator, every strategy becomes useless the moment your psychology collapses. Livermore learned that the hard way. Wyckoff documented it, and I lived it myself. The day I finally understood this was the day everything changed for me. I didn't just learn how to trade. I learned how to reprogram my mind. And that's what this entire video is about. Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe, like the video, and comment below. You're going to need this journey, and I promise you, it's the breakthrough you've been searching for. I remember sitting in front of my computer one night, staring at a losing streak that looked like a slow-motion car crash. I whispered to myself, why does this keep happening? I'm following the rules, I'm analyzing correctly, I'm doing everything right. At least, that's what I thought. But the more I repeated the question, the more I realized that I wasn't looking for an answer. I was trying to escape responsibility. But is it really the market? Or is it me again? And that question became the beginning of my transformation. Livermore once said he made his biggest mistake not by failing to predict the market, but by failing to control himself. And that's exactly where I was. The charts weren't the problem. My mindset was. Every time I took a loss, my brain treated it like a personal attack. Every time I saw a candle surge without me, I felt like I was falling behind. Every time I hit a winning streak, I felt invincible, and that invincibility was where the destruction usually began. I remember one specific moment like it happened this morning. There was a beautiful setup aligning on Euro USD. Clean liquidity, clear structure, textbook Wyckoff accumulation. I told myself, wait for confirmation, don't jump early, trust the plan. But inside, another voice whispered, but what if it leaves without you? What if this is the move of the week? My finger hovered over the mouse as the internal battle raged. Stick to your rules, I said. But you'll miss it, the other voice replied. That's FOMO talking. Maybe, but what if this time is different? I entered early. The market punished me immediately. And as I sat there watching the trade sink, I muttered, I did it again. I violated my plan again. That was the moment I realized something powerful. You don't trade the market. You trade yourself. Wyckoff noted that a trader's greatest enemy is their own impulses. He was right. I didn't need more strategy. I needed mental discipline. And discipline doesn't come from motivation. It comes from reprogramming your internal patterns. I decided to treat trading like a psychological laboratory. Every time I hesitated, every time I rushed, every time I felt fear or greed, I wrote it down. I didn't judge it. I simply observed it. Why did I close early here? Why did I increase size here? Why did I ignore my stop loss? And then I asked myself the hardest question of all. What part of me needed this to happen? That question changed my life, because suddenly I realized the market wasn't triggering me. It was revealing me. My impatience, my insecurity, my hunger for validation, my fear of being wrong. Every trader has something they're running from, and the market brings it to the surface. Some people fear loss, others fear missing out, others fear not being good enough. And the chart becomes the mirror that exposes all of it. I remember a conversation I had with myself after a particularly painful loss. I said out loud, "You're not losing because you're a bad trader. You're losing because you refuse to let go of who you used to be." That sentence hit me like a freight train. And I finally understood what Livermore meant when he wrote that the market punishes the undisciplined mind. I had discipline on paper, but not in my brain. I knew what to do, but I couldn't make myself do it consistently. That's when I asked the question that changed my entire trading career. So, how do I reprogram my mind? The first step was brutal honesty. I said to myself, your results are not random. They are perfectly aligned with your psychology. If I had emotional inconsistency, I got inconsistent results. If I had impatience, I got premature entries. If I had ego, I held losers longer than I should have. The second step was detachment. I told myself, a trade is not a reflection of who you are. Winning didn't make me a genius. Losing didn't make me a failure. I was finally learning neutrality, the mindset all professionals share. But the biggest shift came from something Livermore said: a trader must act the same in victory and defeat. When I read that, I closed the book and stared at the wall. I whispered, no wonder I've been losing. My emotions swing like a pendulum. So I made a rule. Whether I won or lost, I asked myself one question. Did I follow my plan? If the answer was yes, I celebrated, even if it was a loss. If the answer was no, I corrected myself, even if it was a win. Suddenly, winning didn't inflate my ego. Losing didn't break my confidence. I was becoming stable. And trust me, stability is the superpower of every consistently profitable trader. Right now, if you're getting value from this journey, hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. The YouTube algorithm is brutal, and your engagement helps this message reach more traders who desperately need psychological mastery. Because the truth is, most traders fail not because of strategy. They fail because they never upgrade their internal operating system. They keep trading with the same emotional software that sabotaged them yesterday, and until that changes, nothing else will. The real breakthrough came when I understood this. My mindset wasn't the problem. My mindset was programmed for survival, not consistency. And survival mode is a guaranteed way to blow accounts. So I began reprogramming, pattern by pattern, thought by thought, reaction by reaction. And the more I rewired, the more the market started to make sense. I remember the first time I felt the shift happening inside me. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't fireworks, it was simply a moment where I saw a setup forming, and instead of rushing in like I used to, I waited. I actually waited. And it wasn't forced. I wasn't fighting myself. I wasn't sweating or shaking or telling myself, be patient, be patient. I was just calm. I watched the market unfold, and for once in my trading career, I didn't chase. I didn't panic. I didn't feel that burning urgency to be inside the move. I heard Wyckoff's voice in my mind, reminding me that the market is a story, and stories unfold in chapters, not in frantic impulses. So I waited for the confirmation. And when it came, I entered with clarity instead of desperation. It felt different. It felt clean. It felt intentional. And when that trade hit my target, I didn't celebrate wildly. I simply nodded and said, good. That's what following the plan feels like. It wasn't the profit that changed me. It was the lack of emotional chaos. That was the day I realized I was beginning to reprogram my trader mind. But reprogramming doesn't happen in one smooth upward curve. No, your old mindset fights back hard. A few days later, I faced one of the toughest internal conversations of my life. A beautiful setup appeared during London session. My brain said, this is perfect. Everything aligns. But something inside me whispered, you're too attached to this trade. I asked myself,
Are you entering because the setup is valid or because you want this trade to prove something? I hated my own question because I already knew the answer. I wanted to trade to affirm the progress I'd believed I'd made. I wanted a win to validate my new psychology. That alone was a red flag. But I entered anyway. The moment I clicked buy, I felt off balance, like my center of gravity had shifted. The trade moved slightly in my favor, then pulled back aggressively. My stomach twisted. I caught myself holding my breath. Get out, I told myself. You're not calm. This isn't clarity. This is ego. But another voice pushed back. Give it space. You can't exit now. You need this win. And that was the moment I recognized the enemy. Not the market, not the strategy, not liquidity, not volatility. The enemy was the part of me that believed
My self-worth was tied to the result of this trade. The market turned against me, slowly at first, then violently. And as I watched the stop-loss hit, the old emotions, the anger, the shame, the embarrassment, clawed at me again. But this time, I didn't break. I didn't spiral. I didn't chase losses. I simply said, this is the old programming trying to take control again. Wyckoff wrote that most traders lose not because of lack of skill, but because of lack of emotional intelligence. I understood that now. So instead of reacting, I did something I had never tried before. I opened my journal and wrote down the raw truth. You entered because you wanted validation, not because the setup deserved your capital. That was the moment of awakening. That was when I realized I was no longer fighting the market. I was confronting myself. If you're getting value out of this, pause for a moment and hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below saying Mindset Upgrade. It helps this video reach more traders who are stuck in the same psychological trap you may be in right now. The next real breakthrough came on a completely normal morning. I was analyzing the charts, marking liquidity pools, mapping out Wyckoff structures, assessing risk. Everything felt structured, methodical. Then I saw it, the setup I had been waiting for. It was beautiful. No rush, no panic, no emotional turbulence, just clarity. I said to myself, wait for confirmation. If it's meant for you, it won't leave without giving the signal. I waited. The signal came clean and precise. I took the trade, but something incredible happened. Halfway through the move, price pulled back aggressively. The old me would have panicked. The old me would have closed early. But instead, I said out loud, relax. The market breathes. You knew this could happen. I reminded myself of Livermore's cardinal rule. The big money is in the sitting, not the clicking, not the impulsivity, not the frantic reactions, the sitting. So, I sat, calmly, deliberately. The market dipped deeper. My heart rate rose slightly, but I didn't move. I said, trust your plan, trust your structure, trust your mind. And then, as if the market were testing me one last time, price snapped back, reclaimed structure, and surged directly into my take profit. I leaned back and whispered, this is what a reprogrammed mind feels like. Not the profit, the psychological neutrality. That trade wasn't about money, it was about becoming someone new. But the biggest escalation in my journey came when I faced the demon that destroys more traders than anything else. Overconfidence. It struck after a streak of 4 beautiful wins in a row. I felt untouchable. I felt sharp. I felt like the market was finally bending in my direction. I looked at a mediocre setup, one that didn't meet my criteria, one that I normally would have avoided, and said to myself, I can handle this. I'm in flow. This will work. I increased my position size. I violated my rules. I forgot the humility Livermore preached in every chapter of his life. Before I even had time to breathe, the market slapped me across the face. I watched the trade implode, not gently, not slowly, but violently, like the market was punishing my arrogance. When the stop hit, I didn't scream, I didn't slam anything, I didn't even curse. I just sat there quietly and said, you let your old self in again, didn't you? Self-awareness hit me like a cold wave. Consistency doesn't come from perfection. It comes from discipline. And discipline collapses the moment ego walks through the door. I had to confront the ugly truth. I wasn't reprogramming my mind for consistency. I was reprogramming it for identity. The identity of a trader who finally understood himself. A trader who doesn't chase the market, a trader who isn't afraid to be wrong, a trader who respects risk more than reward, a trader who treats every trade like a business decision, not an emotional gamble, a trader who is stable, a trader who is aware, a trader who is, finally, consistent. If you're still with me, make sure you subscribe and comment, "I choose discipline," to let me know you're committed to this journey. Because the transformation isn't finished yet. The final stage of reprogramming will push you deeper than anything you've heard so far. I didn't understand the depth of trading psychology until the day I confronted the one thing that every trader avoids: my own patterns. Not the patterns on the chart, the patterns in me. I sat down with months of data and reviewed every single trade. At first, I told myself I was looking for technical mistakes, but what I found was something far more revealing. Every premature exit was linked to fear. Every early entry was linked to impatience. Every oversized position was linked to ego. Every revenge trade was linked to insecurity. Every blown account was linked to emotional inconsistency. I said to myself, the market didn't destroy you, your patterns did. Livermore learned this lesson repeatedly throughout his life. Every fortune he made came from discipline. Every fortune he lost came from psychological chaos. And the irony is that he didn't lose because his strategy stopped working. He lost because he stopped working on himself. Wyckoff documented this too. He said the average trader never becomes great because the average trader never becomes self-aware. They chase setups instead of clarity. They chase wins instead of discipline. They chase the market instead of mastering their mind. And I was doing the same thing. I thought I needed a better strategy. I thought I needed a different time frame. I thought I needed a new indicator. But what I really needed was the courage to tell myself the truth. You abandoned discipline the moment your emotions took control. That sentence hurt, but it also freed me. One morning, after reflecting on all of this, I said out loud, "Today I'm not trading the market. Today I'm trading my behavior." I treated the chart like a feedback loop. If I hesitated, I asked why. If I felt tense, I slowed down. If I felt excited, I warned myself. If I wanted to increase risk after a win, I stopped immediately. The shift was profound. I finally felt like I was the one in control. Not the market, not the candles, not the volatility, me. But the real test came next. The market presented me with a setup that looked flawless. Clean structure, clear liquidity sweep, beautiful displacement. But something inside me said, something's off. You're too eager. I studied the chart quietly. The price action didn't match the behavior I expected. Momentum was weakening. Volume felt deceptive. Wyckoff's teachings echoed through my mind. The market speaks before it moves, if you're willing to listen. So I waited. And within minutes, the market revealed the trap. Price spiked aggressively in the opposite direction, grabbing breakout traders and slaughtering early entries. The old me would have been in that trap. The old me would have reacted emotionally. The old me would have taken the bait because the setup looked perfect. But the reprogrammed me stayed out. I whispered, "Good, that's discipline. That's awareness. That's growth." And I realized something powerful. Consistency doesn't come from taking great trades. Consistency comes from avoiding stupid ones. That was the day I stopped trying to be right and started trying to be consistent. The day I stopped trying to predict the market and started trying to understand myself. The day I stopped chasing perfection and started prioritizing psychological stability. Later that week, I faced a situation that would have destroyed me a year earlier. I took a well-planned trade. Every rule aligned. Every confirmation was clean. The trade moved in my favor, then reversed and hit my stop loss. For a moment, I felt the old rush of frustration. The old emotions tried to break through. But instead of reacting, I leaned back and said, "This loss is not a reflection of me. It's just data." I journaled it objectively. I followed my plan perfectly. That meant the loss wasn't a problem. It was part of the process. And then something extraordinary happened. The next day, the same setup reappeared, only cleaner and more aligned. I took the trade again. This time, it ran effortlessly, smooth, controlled, powerful. The win didn't make me proud. The discipline did. I said quietly, "This is how professionals trade, not with emotion, not with ego, but with clarity, repetition, and neutrality." And that's when I finally understood what Livermore meant when he wrote, "A man must believe in himself and his judgment if he expects to make a living at this game." He wasn't talking about blind confidence. He was talking about internal stability, the ability to maintain your center regardless of what price does. The real transformation in a trader's life happens internally first. The chart doesn't change. The market doesn't change. The volatility doesn't change. The liquidity doesn't change. What changes is the person observing it. Once I understood this, everything became simpler. Not easier, simpler. I created non-negotiable rules. I followed them without exception. I observed my emotions without judgment. I stopped tying my identity to results. I respected risk with the seriousness it deserved. I refined my mindset every day, not just when things went wrong. And slowly, my trading curve stabilized. Not because the market became predictable, but because I became predictable. My behavior became consistent. My reactions became controlled. My mindset became a weapon instead of a weakness. That's when I said to myself, "You're finally becoming the trader you always imagined." Not the trader who guesses, not the trader who prays, not the trader who hopes for miracles, but the trader who understands himself so well that the market cannot easily exploit his weaknesses. The last escalation in my transformation came when I realized this truth. Consistency isn't a goal. Consistency is an identity. You don't try to be consistent. You become someone who behaves consistently. Trade after trade, day after day, week after week. And that identity is built from the inside out. Before I end this video, I want you to hear this clearly. You cannot reprogram your mind by force. You reprogram it through awareness, repetition, and honesty. The honesty to admit when you are your own enemy. The awareness to see your patterns clearly. And the repetition that turns discipline into instinct. If you're ready to reprogram your trader mindset, start now. Not tomorrow, not after another blown account, right now. Pause the video and say out loud, "I choose discipline." If you can't even say it, you're not ready. If you can say it and mean it, you've already started the transformation. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment, "I choose consistency," and share this with another trader who desperately needs to hear the truth. Because the market doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards psychological mastery. It rewards neutral execution. It rewards disciplined identity. It rewards the trader who no longer battles himself. You are not here to outsmart the market. You are here to outgrow your old self. This is Lord C Forex Mastery, where traders are built from the inside out. Thank you for watching. Your next level begins now.